Hey, everybody. This is Jill Troderman. I'm your host today of Feeding the Family. I've got a great guest in the studio. Her name is Dr. Katherine Reid. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you. Again, right?
Yeah, this is her second rodeo here at the show. Dr. Katherine Reid is a scientist and author of Fat, Stressed, and Sick.
Yep, Fat, Stressed, and Sick, MSG, Processed Foods, and America's Health Crisis. And I was your guest on your first podcast, getting you started here. And so here we are back, obviously talking about food again.
We are, and today is episode number 7, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. It is the biggest, hottest topic right now, I think, in America, and that topic is junk food and the crisis that we are finding ourselves in America. And there's so much research and common knowledge about how these foods are impacting our society. So I wanted to talk to Dr. Katie about that today. But first, let me read a little bit of a synopsis about what my whole show is about for any of you new listeners out there. And please like and subscribe from your favorite streaming platform. Today I am streaming live from SantaCruzVoice.com in beautiful Santa Cruz, California. So Feeding the Family is all about how to teach your kids how to eat well and be healthy. As we explore current trends in healthy eating, holistic nutrition, herbal and integrative medicine, homesteading, organic, regenerative farming, and gardening, we'll be talking about family life, human consciousness, and raising healthy, happy, well-adjusted families. Together, we will check out tasty recipes, the latest food news, current events, and peek into the dark side of what is making our kids, waterways, air, soils, and us sick, and actions we can take to make positive change and solutions we can implement so we can create the world we want to live in. So that's what I'm really all about, is creating the world we want to live in. We can complain all day, every day, and I know a lot of us do, but really that doesn't get us anywhere. Katie and I like to live by examples best we can. Of course, we're not perfect in any stretch, but we do enjoy eating healthy foods. And I think the reason we both do kind of geek out on that is because it feels good.
That's all right. That's right. I mean, you know, the proof's in the pudding is if our mood is good and we're feeling good, that means we're doing something right. And definitely I feel a heck of a lot better as we're drinking our brewed hibiscus tea here, which has got great vitamin C. Yummy. So, yep, we are practicing what we preach.
Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's true. I did bring Katie a glass of this hibiscus tea. I was craving vitamin C. There's a lot of sicknesses going around, whether you believe in viruses or not. It's a thing. But hibiscus, and there's so many easy things that you can do every single day to improve your health. And I like to consider myself an animal. And
well, you are one.
Thank you. What? I am an animal, and I do like to remind people that we are animals. And animals inherently have an innate intuition on what they need to eat. In fact, I was listening on the radio over here, getting here to the studio, about chimpanzees and how researchers in Uganda are finding out that chimps actually use plant medicine for healing. They know how to chew up leaves and attend to their wounds with plants. And for some reason, the researchers were really flabbergasted by that. But I thought, why not? Of course they do.
All right. And that's what I like to do, too.
And that's what I like to do, too. So cheers with our hibiscus tea,
cheers
Katie,
yes.
for the vitamin C.
And thank you for having me. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Katie is an author of this fantastic book. And we're going to start today's topic off with the new Surgeon General pick, who is Dr. Casey Means. And she's getting a lot of attention out there in the ether. So I wanted to, let's talk about that. What do you think about her, Katie? Dr. Reid?
Yeah, I kind of am very intrigued and quite frankly like the pick. She certainly has the medical education, right? She went through Stanford and got her medical degree and then went on to do residency in Oregon. And then she probably was fairly enlightened to the medical system as not being the best for promoting health. And she is speaking our language, Jill. She is absolutely promoting good, healthy foods and bringing light to ultra-processed foods in the American health crisis. And she's speaking our language with respect to health really should begin with looking at our lifestyle. And what more can we say about our lifestyle than we eat 50 tons of food in our lifetime.
Oh, wow. That is an amazing statistic.
Yep, 50 tons of food, right? So, of course...
Some people eat twice that, but...
Maybe I eat 49 tons in my lifetime. But anyway, the point being, we have choices every day, multiple times a day, of what we're putting in our bodies. And the food is a huge component of our health. And, you can often go to these, doctors for various ailments. And very rarely will a doctor say, what are you eating? And that honestly should be the first question that any medical doctor who is actually advocating for their patient should be asking their patients. What are you eating? Because that usually will be the root cause of chronic inflammation and all sorts of things, and that could then progress into other, more serious chronic inflammatory conditions. But it will be exacerbated by continuously eating inflammatory food. So I actually really like Casey Means as the pick. I know there's some controversy. There's debate whether or not somebody should be have medical practice and having seen patients.
Right, because she doesn't currently have her license, but it was expired about a year ago.
Right.
January 2024, I read, or December 2024.
Yeah, and so she may have not have a plethora of what we call patients, but I guarantee she's talking to people and working with them like I do on promoting food health.
Exactly.
And has no doubt made a huge mark in improving the health of our society and nation through advocating better eating, which is what we're doing too. So I'm all for it. She's speaking our language, and for them, them in air
quotes. Katie's doing
the air quotes of like the medical, establishment saying she's woo woo or woohoo. I'm like, that's exactly why she got picked. Is that for sitting there calling somebody woo woo because they're advocating for better thoughts and better food and so forth is not a conscious.
Indeed. She wrote a book called Good Energy.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think that's a really super cool title, like you mentioned before when we were talking.
Yeah.
And it's true. And maybe to some people she is woo-woo, but here in Santa Cruz, that's just like pretty mainstream.
Yeah. I mean,
it's pretty average Joe, tree hugger talk.
Yeah. And in my book, I have a whole chapter on energy. I'm so... love the energy, and I'm sure she had a ton of metabolics, training and education in her past.
Yeah, but, what kind of energy are you talking about? Are you talking about cosmic energy? Are you talking about physical energy in our bodies and how we're producing our energy?
It's the same, right? I mean, so if you think about it, it's like, it's electron flow, and, so obviously we're getting electron flow from calories, but sometimes, calories from foods can also, actually be an energy vampire, right? It's literally stealing or robbing energy or electrons flowing in the right direction for good energy.
And this is really true on a very molecular level, because I kind of want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
The electron exchange, because when you have damage from eating these really junky foods that we're going to really dive into, it causes oxidative stress, and that's when your body is giving up an electron molecule.
Exactly. Right? So it's all about electron flow, and if you're hindering the flow of electrons in the right direction for promoting or producing ATP, adenosine triphosphate, you are, literally, you're getting robbed, and so inflammation is an energy vampire.
Yes, and don't people deserve better?
We all are worthy.
I mean, honestly, this is actually very sad, because I think it's not about what we're not doing, but we deserve to eat well. We deserve to have good energy.
Right. And so a lot of people will say, I deserve that cookie, right? Because there's like this feeling of lack or, I'm denying myself. But, once you kind of retrain the brain saying, no, I'm actually treating myself well because I just had a plate of broccoli, it's kind of changing your mindset, because we are so hooked on these ultra processed foods that are literally stacked against us to rob us or, hijack our whole nervous system, hijack our taste receptors, and making us want to consume more and more of this food that is not healthy, making us feel terrible. Then we feel depressed, and then we want to eat the pint of ice cream. And it's a terrible cyclical cycle, but it's robbing us.
It is robbing us. I have a thing called nutrition vampires. We could talk about that later, and that's really about all the junk food. But I think this woman, Miss Means, could really do wonders. And maybe people are afraid of addressing that. Maybe she's getting a lot of pushback, not just because she's not a practicing MD currently, but because she is highlighting these things that people don't really want to deal with.
Well, I think,
and not just the dealing with, but also the economic side of it too.
Well, and I do. I think, if we look at the medical establishment, it is a huge part of our GDP.
Right.
And, is unhealthy people keep, the medical establishment running. So, but I also think the medical establishment, the way that they're training medical doctors, I do truly believe people are so indoctrined in that education that they truly believe that they are doing the right thing. But there's people that go through the system and kind of feel like, oh, wow, this isn't really healthy, or I'm continuously prescribing these drugs that I kind of feel like these patients aren't tolerating very well, and maybe even getting sicker, and then they are prescribing another drug for that symptom and such. And so I think some people are kind of recognizing that, is this really the best for the population? But I think and I respect that with Dr. Means, is that she literally went through, gosh knows how much you spend on an education of Stanford, medical school, like holy Toledo, right? And so to have gone through that education process, the money, the investment, the opportunity cost, and come out of that saying, I think there's a better route. And I did something similar. I went through my PhD in biochemistry, went through my postdoc, was in biotechnology, and I literally traded in the lab bench for the kitchen counter because I felt like I could do so much more for our nation, my family, myself, by saying, you know what, I'm going to really focus on the foods, how we're preparing, the recipes, and really kind of diving into writing a book about the hidden sources of MSG. Right.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
It's a courageous act, isn't it?
Yeah. Some would say courageous. Some would say, what?
What did you do? How are you going to pay back your medical?
Yeah, how do you pay back your student loans?
Right. But that's what she's intending to do. And I did hear her in Congress, or maybe it wasn't Congress, but she did there was a big round table with all of these, I guess, MAHA people, the Make America Healthy Again folks. And I thought she was pretty off the charts, spot on.
Oh, good.
I was impressed with her.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how all her stance on everything, but all I can say is I'm completely aligned with her message with respect to our standard American diet is absolutely causing a health crisis. It's 70% of ultra-processed food is what's comprised of the standard American diet.
Right, and that's 100% what the teens are eating and the children are eating.
And most adults.
And we're addicted to it. And I think even 90% is what's purchased in stores, is packaged foods. So that's not including, I guess, going to junk food restaurants and things like that. But it is an epidemic we're facing right now.
Absolutely. We are definitely facing a epidemic, so what, 60-70% of our nation is considered overweight or obese.
I think it's 75, and upwards in the 93 percentile is metabolic disorders.
Which again, is the whole
pre-diabetes,
and that's energy, right?
That's energy.
Yeah, and so I talk about energy imbalance and so metabolic syndrome, diabetes, obesity, these are all classic examples, common examples of energy imbalance. So I love the title of Good Energy because it's not just about what calories you're consuming, you have to, or how many calories rather. It's really where are you getting these calories and is it promoting the electrons in the right direction?
Right. And these foods, what we're talking about are what we're calling junk foods. These are mostly non-nutritive food-like substances. So if you really analyze, I know Fruit Loops has gotten a lot of press recently because they're going to take away the artificial colors, which I think is brilliant. great.
I mean, Fruit Loops probably doesn't think so. Just to note, that was not my phone. That was Jill's phone.
Before the show, I tell everyone, turn off your phones. I forgot to read that on my own checklist.
But yeah, absolutely. Fruit Loops, I'm sure, is not happy about taking away their color of their little O's.
And the people don't want the colors taken out either, which is so crazy to me. Like, they don't get the correlation between toxic brain and a healthy diet. But not only are the colors in the Fruit Loops bad, but everything else is bad.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and there's no food in there.
There's no food in there. So the whole entire aisle of cereal for parents, I would just completely avoid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why even spend your money on that stuff?
Yeah, and there's not a single commercial cereal that I would advocate, because it's like the ultra processing of the grain is in every single cereal box.
Right.
And so,
we know is GMO. We know that's glyphosate contaminated.
Ultra processed through gosh knows what, stainless steel, nickel contaminated machines, so it's manufactured in a lab. And so ideally we're eating foods that are not going through a lab.
Right. And most people are eating these things and they're not basically getting the nutrients that people need, all the vitamins, the minerals, antioxidants, everything, good proteins, healthy fats.
Yeah. And, I have a big beef with the whole nutrition, industry too. I mean, I think these vitamins and these minerals and how they're being manufactured are not the way we should be acquiring these nutrients either.
You mean like in supplement form?
In supplement form.
Right.
And so, I think, if you look at like how a lot of the vitamin Bs are manufactured, they're growing up cells in a big, huge vat, feeding them ultra-processed foods, these cells, to keep them alive so that they can, extract these vitamins out of these cells. And I'm like, so pretty much we're taking cells that are fed ultra-processed foods and then sticking this vitamin B12 in our body. And it's like, let's try to get that stuff as naturally as possible. I mean, there's definitely exceptions. There's definitely people who don't absorb nutrients as well, or are not acquiring it because they can't eat certain foods. So there's definitely a certain exclusions, but for the most part, we should be definitely acquiring our nutrients through nutrient-rich foods.
I do agree. What are those chimpanzees in Uganda eating? I don't think they're depending on artificial supplements and commercial cereals.
And they seem pretty darn healthy.
I know. So we need to get back to our animal roots. When I teach the kids, I tell them, be like a squirrel. Yeah. Because squirrels aren't scratching their heads wondering what to eat. They know. They're very in tune. So hopefully this woman, if she does become our new Surgeon General, hopefully she will impart some of these good health advocacies.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that she was getting slammed for being woo-woo, if you think about, again, the energy, good energy, and I have not read her book. I haven't
confess. Read her book either. I have no idea.
But I do remember when I was going to publish my book, the Fat, Stress, and Sick, MSG, Processed Foods, and America's Health Crisis, I was looking for potential reviewers. And I remember coming across her title of her book and thought, oh, I like that title because I do think it's all about energy. And one of the things that I think is really robbing energy, and this is a little woo-woo, or people would consider it woo-woo. I'm not going to say it's woo-woo because I think it's absolutely, is our negative thoughts, right? And the more that you're consuming crappy food and you're not feeling good and you're depressed and you're anxious and you're fearful and blah, 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 your brain is just hijacking your entire body into thinking like, okay, it's a negative thought cycle. And that is an energy drain.
That's a depressant for sure.
Yeah. And so if you could think about, do you feel better, balanced energy, more centered when you're having good, pleasant thoughts and you're out in the sunshine and you're exercising and all that good stuff? Or when you're thinking like, okay, I don't have enough money to pay the bills and I really don't want to get up tomorrow morning and my kid just called me a nasty name. If you're spinning on those negative thoughts, it's a lot of energy. And, I talk about the glutamate kind of industry in our foods, but a lot of the negative stress thoughts can actually secrete glutamate, which is a survival response, but it's an energy drain to be metabolizing all that glutamate surge because it's really evolutionarily conserved to be running from the cheetah.
Indeed. Yes, I love that so much. So that's when, we're having a cortisol, so we're having a bad thought. it creates a stress response. So we're having increased heart rate, increased cortisol, and then a glutamate response. So this is really cool that I don't think maybe people understand. Excuse me. So glutamate is a natural amino acid that is naturally occurring. But in the food processing industry, they found that glutamate is a salty umami flavor.
Correct.
That was discovered back in Japan, or that was the second one, because the first one was developed or found in Germany in the 1800s. They discovered glutamic acid and the salty taste. But it wasn't until the Japanese guy really figured out when he was making his miso soup that it was this umami flavor. But of course, we couldn't just enjoy it like that. They had to isolate it and patent it. And so now this isolated glutamate, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the expert on glutamates.
The glutamate queen here.
Yeah, so this is so exciting to learn about and to really deep dive into, because I don't think people get it, is that when it's isolated, it becomes a neurotoxin. It's an excitatory neurotransmitter.
Yeah, and it's all about load, right? So, if the glutamic acid, which, like you said, is an amino acid naturally occurring, if it's, part of a whole food protein, like in almonds, for example, and you're consuming that with other, high fiber, nutrient rich foods, you're not getting a glutamate surge, neurotoxic kind of, impact. It's when it's in ultra processed food, there's not the nutrients to kind of counter or, to balance out, and it's the processing of the foods is creating or causing a bunch of hidden sources of MSG. So it's all about load. And so we've been, evolutionarily conserved to consume some glutamate in our diets that is just telling our bodies, okay, this has protein or this is a ripe fruit. It's really the ultra processing that's creating 10, 20x more than we have been designed to handle, and it's creating a survival stress response, fight, flight, fear, fawn response. And if you look at our family, our community, the people at the grocery store, I think we can all sit there and say, whoa, that person's pretty stressed out, or that person's not handling that well, or that person seems very anxious in terms of just what they're communicating, how they're communicating it, and what's happening in their life. We're like, a lot of us are absolutely just resonating on the fight, flight, fear, fawn response.
Right. So so let's break this down a little bit. Let's break the glutamate down into the molecular. So when it's isolated and they add it to a food for an umami flavoring, as opposed to it naturally occurring in milk or meat or beans or apple, I think it's in. I don't know. Tomato,
not
mushrooms.
Apple. Right.
There's a whole variety of foods that MSG naturally occurs in, like we just mentioned. But the food manufacturers isolate it out and they add it to food. So I think I had a hand up from you and it had like 50 different names for MSG.
Right. So
could you rattle off some of these things? So when people are looking at the back of their packages, even if you're at Whole Foods or some natural food store, these glutamates, while quote-unquote are natural, are still highly toxic in excess. So what are those added glutamates? Can you share what some of those names are?
Yeah, and what I'm really trying to raise awareness is it's the processing of these foods that are protein-rich. So if you take a naturally occurring protein-rich food, and let's say almonds, just for the sake of just argument here. So here we have a whole food, almonds. It's a protein-rich food. But if you obliterated that and, subjected it to a bunch of acid and, extreme heat and high pressure and fermented the sucker, you're going to degrade that protein, break it up into its subunits of amino acids, and there's going to be a certain amount of glutamic acid in that protein, and that's where you're getting these free glutamate surges is from the processing of foods.
Would that be like if you're cooking black beans, for instance, like natural, like you soak your beans, you cook them in your Instapot, is that also going to release excess free glutamate, or is it in like a manufacturing plant type of situation?
Yeah,
I wanted to learn the difference. The extremity.
Right. What's considered extreme and what will degrade a protein. And a protein's a pretty, I'm a protein chemist by, education. So proteins are pretty darn stable. I mean, it takes a lot to break that peptide bond that holds these amino acids together in a protein. So it does take commercial processing. We're talking like, extreme conditions of, like the acid and the acid and pressure and heat and, fermentation, so you're subjecting it to a bunch of different forces. So your black bean example, if you're soaking it, not fermenting it, because if you do ferment it, you'll start to secrete, glutamate with fermentation time. But if you just soak it overnight, rinse, put it in your Instant Pot, that pressure is not enough to break the peptide bond.
Okay, so normal cooking is not going to release like excessive amounts of glutamate.
Correct. And so, so there are, fermentation processes that people will do at their kitchen counter and such like that, where you will start to secrete glutamate with fermenting a protein-rich food.
Okay, like soy, tempeh, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And some people are more sensitive to these glutamates than others.
Right. The more inflamed you are, the more sensitive. The neurodivergent brain, which we have a number of different disorders that we might put in that classification. I'm just going to say one that I'm very familiar with is autism. That brain is neurologically more wired to the fight, flight, fear, fawn response, and then will become much more sensitive to the environmental exposure to glutamate. So, it's really kind of eating, whole foods. You can cook them, with, processes that are kind of not fermenting, a bunch of, cheese, for example. I mean, so fermenting milk excessively to make cheese will produce glutamate the more you are, fermenting it.
Right, and yogurt and stuff like that. And so we have to take a quick commercial break, but I'd like to talk about the toxic impact of the glutamate and also a lot of other things.
Excellent.
We want to talk about really how to grow your own food in this conversation today. So we're going to talk about what to plant in the garden a little bit later. So hold on, folks. We'll be right back.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
Attention content producers. You can have access to a complete digital media production facility at Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Easily rent video and audio equipment, a studio with green screen, editing suite and audio booth, all at can't say no rates. Schedule a tour to see for yourself at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
When you need help managing your estate, call on the Angel.
Hello, I am attorney Angel Hess, and I am ready to help. Whether you need a will or a trust, a guardianship or a conservatorship, or if you are managing the financial affairs of a loved one, I will help you with over 7 years' experience working in estate planning and probate fields.
When you need help, call on the Angel, attorney Angel L. Hess at santacruzlegal.net.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Donate your car and help veterans and their families. Yes, one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program and we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate most cars, trucks, or SUVs in most conditions. The proceeds raised goes to help active military, veterans, and their families. And you get a tax deduction. Operators are standing by. Here's the number.
800-640-9509. Again, that's 800-640-9509.
Hey folks, we are back. I'm Jill Troderman, your host of Feeding the Family. And I have with me today Dr. Katherine Reid, author of Fat, Sick, and...
Fat, Stressed, and Sick.
Fat, Stressed, and Sick.
Fat, Stressed, and Sick. MSG, Processed Foods, and America's Health Crisis. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know, and I did. I got a lot of grief about the fat, in the title. But it really was because of the epidemic of obesity, and it's rather than putting the kind of clinical word obesity in there, it seemed like it just kind of flowed with fat, stressed, and sick.
It does, but people are getting prickly about that.
A little bit of, like, wow, why such a, kind of a slam title like that? But it is about kind of, we need to wake up, we're almost kind of coming into a society of, accepting that, the plus sizes, and, accommodating that. And I'm like, it's an oxymoron to say that, fat is healthy. There really is difficult to say that the energy imbalance that results in obesity is in any shape or form healthy.
Right, and the doctors are trying to say it, or even in the media, because we, of course, love our people. This is not about fat shaming at all.
Not at all. We love.
Yeah, we love. We are loving human beings, all of us, but that is a reality. And so how can we be sensitive to the health condition while not ignoring it?
Exactly. So it's acknowledging that there is an energy imbalance and that is not healthy. And at the same time saying, we're at where we're at and we're going to accept where we're at, but not saying that that's a state of health.
Well, they're normalizing it. So
and it is normal.
It is. Yeah, it's true. Most people are overweight.
Right. So it is
5%.
Right. So they outnumber. They are the majority, and it is then by definition considered normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy.
Indeed. And they also want to try change the BMI for kids.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. Because kids are getting bigger.
Yeah.
And one thing I was reading that they were trying to make it like, the kids that are building muscles, those weight builder guys compared to the other people. But no, I think in a growing child, you can definitely tell the difference between a kid who's naturally going to be a higher BMI because he's a football player and he's pumping weights after school every day compared to a kid, bless your heart, child, who's not pumping weights and sitting around doing video games for 8 hours.
And, so I think it's the food, right?
It's the food, and it's the sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, the combination, yeah. And I do remember when I was all Michelle Obama's coming out against the food industry and, really kind of saying, eating right and blah, blah, blah. And then, growing foods. And then it changed to let's get moving and put the entire health and obesity epidemic to moving. And I just felt that was unfair. It really is the food industry. It's stacked up against us. And I felt like that really wasn't getting to the root cause of the obesity epidemic. And I was kind of bummed. I was just like, it started off on the right track, and you can tell corporate America, as it has taken over our government, has taken over our nation, the world, got to her messaging.
Yeah, it's definitely evil, I would say. It really is corrupt, and it's not just here in the United States anymore. Our bad, sad diet, the standard American diet, is now leaking out into other parts of the world that didn't have this kind of food. And they're seeing the exact same kind of health crisis now that we are.
And it is interesting that it's in higher income countries.
Right.
Because a lot of the other countries that do not have all of the ultra processed foods, which is expensive, you can grow a lot of the other foods that, it's associated with modern societies.
Right. Eating out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And advertising is a massive factor. Also, there's a couple studies that have recently come out saying just 5 minutes of exposure to junk food marketing will increase a child's consumption of calories by 130. So they're going to take in another 130 calories for a kid, and that adds up after time. So let's see. Back in the day, kids used to see about 11,000 junk food commercials. Now it's 1,000. So they have gone down with the TV. But now the marketers are just going to the YouTube and to the gaming platforms. Yeah. So the children, parents are still seeing these commercials. And there's a lot of correlation to increased bad dietary habits. So pay attention to that.
And, it's for parents, it's a battle worth fighting, just as you would try to instill values in your child for doing the right thing or, saying please and thank you and the manners and, maybe you have a religious value in your family. I mean, the value of eating well is incredibly important for the longevity of your family and the genes passing on. And, not enough parents are fighting that battle. And it is a battle. Like you're saying, we are just bombarded everywhere schools, after school functions, in advertisements, we are being bombarded, parties, social, everywhere. And it does
School.
Yeah,
Vending machines in schools, I am
ice cream
just
trucks
so done with that.
I know.
Like, what?
Or the teacher feeding the cupcakes at every birthday. I'm like, you got 35 kids in your class. You're going to, have 35 cupcake celebrations. Like, please. I wish schools would just
be done with that.
Be done with feeding other people's children.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And what about fast food restaurants in schools and high schools? What a nightmare that is. Because if it's there, the accessibility, people are going to eat it.
And I find that's, true even in my own home. I say to parents, the quality control begins with your home. Do not bring it into your home, because then everybody is tempted, and when your guards are down and you're having the munchies, you're going to grab something that's just got that, yummy flavor, and rather than something that, just grabbing an apple or an orange or something that's just so much more healthy to satiate that kind of whatever. It's a sweet tooth or just kind of something to stave off that little hunger. But yeah, don't bring it into the home. But there is so much outside. So then you have to come up with your plan with, what are you going to do when you go to Betty's birthday party and there's pizza and Doritos and crappy food all over the place? And I tell people, feed your kids beforehand, so that this stuff, it's dilution is the solution to pollution. And it's the more that you're putting in good food. And then, honestly, with those that are really dealing with chronic inflammatory conditions, you just can't have your kids eating that stuff. You will be facing massive health issues.
I agree. So education to me is number one, and I used to sort of traumatize my kids when they were little.
Me too.
And I did it on purpose, because I didn't want them to be an unhealthy, miserable kid who just feels like crap all the time. So during those Saturday commercials, I would pause the commercial and get in front of the TV and do a little lecture. All right, let's analyze this. So I'm a food manufacturer, and I'm here to sell you this crap food. And I would tell the kids, and they finally got it. They really understood. And it wasn't until they understood, you don't want to eat this. There's so many better things out there for you to eat. Mm-hmm. But they had to get it intellectually. And I think that's what the parents have to do, is really get it on an intellectual. I'm sure the parents get it intellectually, but they have to impart it onto the kids.
Right. As long as the parents themselves are modeling it right. So, and there's a fair amount in this country that are not modeling good eating.
Right.
So there's that step, is that you've got to model, all sorts of good lifestyle habits. But if the parents do get it, sometimes they're like, it's just not worth the battle. And absolutely, it is worth the battle, because the consequences will be paid one way or the other, either by you yourself or the child, or your future grandchildren. It really is about longevity and genes being passed on. But it is,
and it is what Katie said. Can you repeat that? That's really important. I was thinking about something else, and I wanted to share that. But go ahead. So genes, these things do get passed on. When pregnant women are eating MSG, glutamate, all of these junk foods, it impacts not just the fetus, it will impact their genes moving forward.
Yeah, because we do get gene expression upregulated or downregulated depending on environment, and so that then can influence, SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, that are getting passed on, epigenetics, and so it does, so environment does matter with respect to what's getting passed on, and you can pass on. An unhealthy pregnant woman will pass on some of the health issues to their fetus.
I know, and this makes me angry, and it's not, I just want to say, it's I have so much compassion for the parents out there.
Oh, me too.
I really, really
it's
do.
A battle.
And it makes me angry, and that's why we started this conversation about this new Surgeon General.
Right.
And let's see if she's really going to make the changes, because Katie and I are talking, the studies are done.
Yeah,
There's hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of studies and research papers around the world that prove what we're talking about.
Right. So I'm not even sure where I heard it. It was we need to do a study on ultra processed foods. I'm like, how many freaking studies do you need on ultra processed foods and its impacts? And
I don't think we do.
And so we've got the classifications of the degrees of processing, ultra processed, the NOVA classifications of foods, and it's we've got the databases, we've got, what people are consuming, you've got the data. The United States corporations, big food, keep preventing from a lot of this stuff getting published. And so it's being published in Canada and Brazil and Germany and all these other countries, much more so than the United States, because big food is blocking a lot of this stuff from exposure.
And I bet it's also, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but it is there. But I'd say the United States is way behind on some of these studies actually getting published on, the effects of United States, population.
I agree. So in the United States, we allow 3,000 additive chemicals into our food supply. Europe only has 300.
I'm surprised it's only 3,000. It seems like there's just an incredible amount
I know.
Especially when you consider like a can and some of the coatings or plastic, the coatings that are going on in our food containers. I
don't know if that's included in. I think
food,
it is
you're right.
Actually.
You're right. It's not food additives, but it is in our food.
Part of what we're eating. It's
right.
true.
And then the big, huge machines that our food is touching. I didn't realize to what degree nickel contamination is going on with steel machines
and
you
brought
nickel.
Up nickel, and nickel was one of the things in our lithium battery fire that we had here in Moss Landing.
Oh.
I think nickel was one of the heavy metals.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
and it's very toxic.
So it's a heavy metal. See, so this stuff is really getting into everywhere. Is everyone paranoid enough?
Well, so we are, practicing good thoughts because we don't want to
Healthy.
secrete the glutamate stress response. And so we're like, luckily we can empower ourselves. And it sourcing foods is not a trivial task.
It's not, but it's worth it. It's
so
a
worth
worthy effort.
So worth it. And like you said, growing our own food
right
in the garden is a great way to empower ourselves. And when you see that little basil pop up, you're like, oh, yay.
I know. That is like my most exciting thing when I pick a carrot.
Oh.
I'm like, what? Is this really happening?
Mm-hmm.
It is like such a high. So we can talk about that, but what do you think really quick, I don't know if this is kind of a dodgy topic, and I do want to have a whole show on this, is with children who do suffer from obesity, doctors and researchers or whoever's pharmaceutical industry, I suppose, is pushing the Ozempic and the GLP peptides on to children.
Again, sad. We know the antidote is absolutely lifestyle, and, that is always the place to start. I don't think we have enough time and research on the long-term effects of these GLP drugs on anybody, let alone children.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. And so it's, the same thing with we were talking about the energy imbalance, epidemic, where we're talking about metabolic syndrome, obesity, diabetes, all of these things, we can empower ourselves to be much better at preventative. And think of how much money this nation would save on health care costs. Well, it's not health care, it's medical costs.
Sick care.
If we just owned our own health and the health of our families much more so by practicing preventative, eating well is the antidote to obesity. Yeah,
so everything's not solvable by a pill, and I think that's one of our biggest problems in America is that we just want a quick solve, and that's not going to be the case. And I really was, when I saw that article, I was like, no, not that for the kids.
Oh. Well, I'm even torn a bit on the adults.
I'm definitely torn on the adults.
Yeah, so
but
of course
at least
the children.
Adults have some choice. I've been seeing what's happening to the adults with the GLPs. It delays stomach emptying.
Yeah, no.
So you're not digesting properly. You're having constipation, diarrhea, and then you're losing muscle from all kinds of parts of your body, and it sounds like a nightmare.
Well, we talk about metabolics, and I
feel very judgy, but
well,
that's how I feel.
We're talking about the promotion of good electron flow and such, and so if you're taking something that's binding to a receptor or an agonist or antagonist to a receptor, you are definitely interfering with metabolism, and so it is as much as possible trying to promote good, healthy metabolism. And the antidote to obesity, obviously would be eating
healthy,
better and healthier, and it can be done.
Let's throw out a few tips for parents. Like, You do too, and I'll do too. Like, what are some quick, easy ways people can stop shopping in the middle of the food stores, not buying all those junk food cereals? Which, by the way, let me just share that they do marketing on how, like, Frosty the Tiger or Tony the Tiger
on
the Frosted Flakes, which I haven't had since I was maybe 6.
But immediately we have an image because it's been blasted into our brain.
Everyone knows what that cartoon character is like, but they spend millions and millions, probably billions of dollars on advertising, and they analyze the exact angle of which Tony the Tiger is looking at the child theoretically walking down the cereal aisle. So if you go pull up on your internet right now and you pull up these boxes, you could see the crazy glare. And so those kids are staring at these like
scary
mascots.
Mascots and kind of like authoritative sort of figures of like,
It's haunting. I was like, oh my gosh, they're mesmerizing. So the food industry has captured your children.
Yeah, with the visual, like you're saying, with the coloring, with the marketing on the packaging, and the ingredients in the food that keep you absolutely just, addicted.
It's addictive. It is 100% addictive. But you know what else is addictive? Gardening.
What a transition. Yeah, boy, do I love that, manure putting into the soil.
Don't eat the manure.
Yeah. Wear gloves.
Wear gloves. That's not the tasty part of the garden.
No.
But seriously, I think I want to go back to be like a homesteader. I call myself a wannabe homesteader.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the wannabe category too. I have not achieved that, and I'm always just so... not jealous because that's a negative word, but just appreciative of those that have actually, manifested and achieved the homestead, and they're growing their own food to the point where they can avoid the middle aisles in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean, I get a carrot once. I'm not picking 20 at a time, but that is my goal. But maybe once a day I'll pick a carrot. And a couple strawberries and some asparagus.
And you've got a lot better of land and sun than I do. I'm like in a greenhouse in the redwoods here, so I'm definitely fighting some environmental limitations with the gardening element. But I have not given up.
You can grow salad.
Oh, I do the leafy greens a lot.
Leafy greens,
yeah, the kale, the chard, the basil, all those things. Parsley, cilantro. I mean, I can do the leafy greens easily. And you know what I discovered? I went on this tour of foraging through the Santa Cruz Mountains and discovered all these edible plants and all these herbal benefits, and 75% of them are on my property.
I love
so
that.
I kind of have my own farm and didn't even know it.
See?
Like lemon balm and
miner's lettuce.
Yeah, miner's lettuce. I mean, so I have all these edible things.
Cleavers.
Cleavers. Oh my goodness.
Right?
Love it. And so I'm sticking that
Nettles,
stuff in.
I bet, or in your garden.
Yeah.
Because you have shady conditions.
Yeah. And so it's going in my smoothie.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. And so, no longer do I have to sit there and, really rely on that kale. Although kale's good.
There's abundance in the backyard.
Yes.
And that's how our planet used to be. So let's get back to that, because we're creating the world we want to live in.
Yes.
So it's May. So what's here to plant in the garden? I have a little garden calendar I've put together, and I refer myself to it. So we're going into the hot season, so we're going to be planting our summer crops. So those are heat-loving things. So things that you want to start in flats. So get a little container, put some soil, and get some seeds. So you want to plant beans. That could be green beans. Oh, yeah, that's what I've been picking out of my garden.
Oh.
Peas.
Nice.
Oh, my gosh. It is a euphoric experience. I'm there in my garden like, woohoo, eating this delicious thing. And that's what kids really want to have. That experience of eating some fresh asparagus, a carrot, some peas out of the garden, there is nothing like it. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the land, there's community gardens. There's people all over the planet right now popping up with, there's a guy in LA who is converting people's front lawns into farms and gardens.
Yeah, even balconies, growing things in pots or the hydroponic systems, experiment, try it. I think it's all fun.
It's all fun, and work with your neighbors and share. So let's say I grow hot stuff and Katie's growing some lettuce. We can share.
I can give you lots of lemon balm.
I'm not
Miner's lettuce, yeah.
All right, so let me tell you. We've got beans, corn, cucumber, eggplant, muskmelons, peppers, summer squash, watermelon. So those are the three sisters: corn, beans, and squash. That's what the Indians used to grow, and those grow really well. They're companions to each other. And then you can grow right into the garden, just plunk them right into your garden soil, would be beans, beets, carrots, corn, cucumber, eggplant, greens, onions, peppers, sweet peas, and tomatoes. And planting is pretty much the same thing. So that sounds pretty easy, folks, right?
Yeah, nice. I know. I just, again, my goal is to, be able to actually not just have like one meal a week, but actually be able to sustain. And now that I got these other plants growing that I didn't even know, I can start to augment my greenhouse supply too. But
I love that. And grow things that you like to eat and that are easy to grow and not too time consuming. So corn takes up a lot of room, and you need a lot of corn to pollinate with each other. So stick to something like carrots, like I mentioned, or lettuce greens or something like that. So that's that. That's what I have in the garden. And then let's see, we only have a few more minutes left.
You were saying about tips that we would give parents.
Oh, yeah, let's do some tips really quick.
One, it's a battle worth fighting, but, oftentimes when I'm telling parents that we're, trying to change the lifestyle and promoting different foods, if you have young children under the age of 10, I advise not even taking the children to the supermarket until you really get a handle of what is going to constitute, your new family diet, because the marketing, like you just mentioned, is so geared at these kids, and you're dealing with these kids begging for the stuff that's visually very appealing. They know that their palate's just going to be salivating and such. And so that way you're stocking the house with these foods that you then are promoting and giving them two choices. So empower your child with choice. You have this choice and this choice, and both choices are healthy, food options.
I love that. Yeah. So be prepared before you go to the store.
Yep. And, the other one is, like you said, just avoid the middle aisles. I mean, like your grocery list is like, here, Sam, go get, these 5 ingredients. It's all whole foods. You're kind of teaching your child where these things are located at your local healthy food store, so they can participate in the shopping. But it's not like going down and, like you said, Frosted Flakes with Tony the Tiger.
No, avoid that completely. I want to actually put up some yellow tape, like caution tape, in the aisles and do some actions.
Like toxic, like red, the skull bone.
Yeah, skull and bone, like danger. This is the danger aisle.
Yeah.
Anyways. So what are some other food? Well, clearly just getting your kids to cook in the kitchen. So getting them to help prepare breakfast.
Yeah, the gardening thing, I think, is a great family activity.
Gardening.
And it could be, even through the winter where you've got seeds that are kind of in your little, whatever place in your house, or, if you do have a greenhouse or not, it can be every season there's something to do with respect to growing food.
Yeah, and I think it's
canning,
jarring, getting your kids involved, I think, is probably the number one thing, and keeping it positive.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the take-home message for today. Is check your energy, keep it positive.
Keep it positive.
We're all here together drinking our hibiscus tea. It's so lovely here.
Yep.
In our woo land of Santa Cruz.
Woo Santa Cruz. Here we go.
We're going to play another cannabis commercial. But we only have less than a minute left, so I'm here again with Dr. Katherine Reid, and I am Jill Troderman. And so thank you for being here, Katie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was so much fun. And one more thing I just wanted to share. I do have a couple classes coming up, so please do check my website, SantaCruzHolisticNutrition.com. And I do have a webinar I'll be doing on Monday if anybody's interested. I'll put some social media thing on that. And have a wonderful day. Eat your broccoli and enjoy it. Because it's good and you're going to feel good. And that's the goal. Feel good.
Love it.
All right, everyone. Peace out.